So, thank you all for being once more in our lectures. So, for today, it's my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Dr. Petra Tušlová, who is assistant professor at the Institute of Classical Archaeology at the Charles University in Prague. Since 2017, Petra has been an integral part of the Institute's academic community, and she is currently a Marie Curie Fellow at the Fitz Laboratory at the British School at Athens. Petra's research journey began with a strong focus on landscape archaeology and systematic surface survey methodologies, contributing to important fieldwork projects in southern Uzbekistan, which, as I told her, is very impressive. Over time, her work has evolved towards the archaeology of the Roman and late antique Balkans, with particular emphasis on ancient Thrace and the study of pottery production and distribution. Her extensive field experience in Bulgaria dates back to 2007, when she first participated in excavations at Pistiros. She later became a key member of the Tundzha Regional Archaeological Project, and she went on to co-develop the Yurta Stroino, if I pronounce it well, archaeological project in collaboration with the Regional Historical Museum Yambol. These, let's say, long-term research initiatives have significantly advanced our understanding of settlement patterns and material culture in the region. And as I told her before we start, I really appreciate her work on that, and it really helped me. At present, Petra's research focuses on Roman period pottery production and circulation in Thrace, using the Yambol district as a case study. Her fellowship at the Fitz Laboratory gives her the chance, allows her to apply scientific techniques such as ceramic petrography to archaeological material, bridging traditional archaeological approaches with advanced analytical methods. In tonight's lecture, she will take us to the Tundzha River Valley, one of the most fertile regions in central Bulgaria, strategically connected in antiquity to the Aegean and, of course, beyond. Drawing on recent fieldwork, she will present new insights into the region's landscape, economy, and craft production during the Imperial Roman period. By integrating both non-destructive and destructive, of course, methods of investigation, her work offers a vivid reconstruction of the valley's past character and its role within the wider ancient networks. So, with no further ado, please join me in welcoming Dr. Petra Tušlová. Thank you, Petra.
Thank you, Vasilis, for introduction, and thank you to all the team of the Athena Research Center to invite me for this talk. And I hope everything is okay. You see the presentation. I will probably close the window here. No, then now did I just get out of the?
No, you just show the people taking part. So you have to go back to the presentation you were.
Okay, so then I will move the people on the side. Okay, somewhere here. I don't see them. Oh, see you. Sorry. Okay. Thank you. Then let's go for the talk. It was a great motivation for me actually to start to put the data and the work we did in the Yambol region together. So I hope it will be comprehensive. This is the first time I am presenting that. If not, you can of course ask me questions at the end. Okay, perfectly. So this is the structure of the talk, because I will be mixing more investigation and more periods together to not get you lost. So I would start with the introduction of the investigation in the Yambol region and on the previous studies on which we built on. Then I will focus on a part of the archaeology, which will be focused on our work of excavation in Yurta Stroino, and then on the surface survey of several other sites in its vicinity, also in combination with low-scale geophysics on several of the sites. And then I will move to my current project I'm carrying out on a Fitch Laboratory at the British School at Athens, which is focused on pottery and geology of the area. And maybe it doesn't relate, but it does build on the story focused on the function of the region during the Roman period and of the using of the local resources. And then in the conclusion, try to see if we can actually conclude on the basis of our studies how did the region functioned. So I suppose it's not necessary to extensively introduce this area. Ancient Thrace, Roman province, which was founded in the middle of the 1st century AD. And today we can find it. Let me see one more. I will use the, okay. We can find it on the southeastern part of the Balkan Peninsula. It's mostly composed of southern part of Bulgaria, northeastern part of Greece, and a European part of Turkey. Our study region, Yambo district, is located on the southeastern part of Bulgaria, so somewhere in this area, on the borders with Turkey. It's eastern Bulgaria. It's a part of the Upper Thracian plain, which is very fertile, as it was said, with very mild climate, and it was historically used for agriculture and stock breeding. And here, this is the Tundzha River, which is the main axis of the region, and also thanks to that it's very fertile, first of all, and second, it also provided connection with the Aegean area and with the Aegean Thrace. This is how the region looks like. Just to give you an idea, it's very flat, long lands full of agriculturally cultivated fields. And it seems that the countryside did not considerably change since early Iron Age. Based on the first study, I'm showing here the focus on the paleoecology of the area. At the beginning of the early Iron Age, the countryside, the vegetation of the countryside started to look like as it looks at that moment. So it was composed mostly of fields, which were suitable for agriculture and for stock breeding, and also with a small scale or small areas which were forested, mostly around the rivers or on the foots of the hills. Already at that period, there were domesticated crops, and also we can add the study from excavation of Jurtastrina, one of the sites I'm going to talk about today. The osteological finds actually found only domesticated animals, mostly cattle, sheep, and goats, which seem to be only for the breeding, as there were no signs of physical works of the animals. The major site of the area during the Roman period is the military camp at Kabyle, which was founded by Hadrian in 104-5 AD. Although what we can see currently at the site, its later phase from the late antiquity, as the earlier phases were not really yet excavated. Kabyle is well positioned on the network of roads. I was playing actually with this new shapefile from the Itinéraire Oreg. I recommend this webpage. It was newly updated for the Roman period road network. And here we can fully appreciate the interconnection with the area with the south, so Aegean Sea, and with the east, also with the Black Sea area. Yambo, just for the reference, this is the main city of the region, and also it's a seat of the Archaeological Museum at Yambo, with whom we collaborate on the work at the area. Before I start, I would like to mention some of the major publications which are diachronic and which are focused on a study of the region, like a complex study of the region, because of course there are many more publications of specific excavation and rescue excavations. First of all, it's the older book from 1978 by Dimitrova and Popov, which is basically a gazetteer of archaeological sites. It's very simple, but descriptive. There is always a paragraph about individual sites, about Jurtastrina, and a map where it's an approximate location of the sites they discuss. Then, very important project of the region, Tundzha Regional Archaeological Project, which was mentioned already last time by Nadia, and it focused on two regions in Bulgaria. One in Kazanlak, one in Yambol. So I'm going to talk about the one in the Yambol, and I will be coming back to this project several times. As it was mentioned on the Nadia's presentation, this project brought systematic field investigation into Bulgaria, and many people which participated on the project then develop it into their own liking. The project continued until quite recently, and the last activities focused on documenting of mounds, burial mounds, and also settlement mounds in the area. This is an article from 2024, which mentions that about 1,095 mounds were documented only in that region. And just to share some tips, if you are interested, you can download the shape file with all the mounds, also with the database where is their description and state of art. And the last book I would like to mention is of Todor Valchev, our colleague from the Regional Archaeological Museum in Jambol, a specialist in prehistory. This is based on his dissertation thesis book published in 2023, where he collects all the projects and all the excavation and field surveys which were conducted in the region until year 2021 or 2023. So it's a comprehensive overview of everything which was archaeologically happening in the area. And today I will be going back a lot to the Tundzha Regional Archaeological Project, which starts the part of the archaeology. And specifically, I will focus on this area, which is in the Elchovo municipality. The limited area which was chosen for the project in its season in 2009 and 2002 focused on systematic investigation of an area between two rivers. It's the Roman River on the south and Gerenska River on the north. There is a slight hill in the middle, so we can imagine that you go uphill, hill, downhill. Just to give you an idea about the topography of the area. And I was a student participating on this project. And also thanks to that project, I stayed in Bulgaria, because after the end of the project, we have developed collaboration with the Regional Historical Museum in Jambol and started the Jurtas Archaeological Project, which took place in 2014-2016 and focused on excavation when one of the settlements, which was not found, it was already known, but it was surveyed during the TRAP, as the Tundzha Regional Archaeological Project has a shortcut project. This was published, the results of our excavation and also field survey. I focused on the pottery studies, which I still develop further. So if anyone is interested, these two publications can be downloaded for free from the webpage of Studia Hercynia and section monographs. And it's also a reason I'm not going to go much into the details of this project, but I would like to focus only on some aspect of it, which will help me to build the story of this today's talk. So the site was surveyed by the systematic survey of the trap. Here on the left we can see the density of the finds. Altogether it had about 30 hectares. And this southern part next to the Roman River was not investigated because it was, or was investigated but not in the systematic survey because it was too densely overgrown with huge piles of stone on the top. And the reason for this was that it was systematically looted. Here we have some historical images of Google Earth in 2014. That's the year we started the excavation or the project. And we can see all these small dots in the core or in the concentration of the settlement. Those are holes made by treasure hunters. We can maybe see it better on the satellite image for 2017. Here we can also see our activities and the trench. I will talk about that later. And just out of curiosity, I looked how the situation is today. It seems that the nature is overtaking back the land, and the field, the site is still not agriculturally cultivated, and it's let alone. And there are no other looting activities, as it seems. So this is how it looked in March 2014. Just before we started, there were trenches, almost looked like excavated by archaeologists, but those are the looting trenches. Some places showed exhibited walls and some finds which were just accumulated on the surface. Since one of the aims was to describe the architecture of the area, we have chosen actually one corner which was already uncovered by the looters, and in 2 years, 2-3 years, excavated this structure, which is 5-room house with a courtyard on the north. We had enough finds to reconstruct its possible architecture, the upper structure, found some parallels in VC in Germany, in the longhouses, and of course had a lot of material to work with. But it's not the excavation I want to talk about, it's the surface survey, which was very challenging. Actually, it was focused on this area which was overgrown, and we were thinking how to approach it, because it was out of a question that you would be walking and just doing systematic survey in this field. And it was my colleague Barbara Weissova which came up with urban survey and divided, and this is how it looked like. It was also not possible to clean it really mechanically because there were a pile of stones. Anyway, so she suggested to divide it on the squares, 20 to 20 meters. Each of the square further divide into smaller sub-squares of 10 meters, and to sort of create a cross-section from the north to south and the longest axis of the core of the settlement, and the same from the east to west, and to clean the surface and to carefully investigate it, which somehow she and several students managed to do. Here you can see it's not the final situation, but work in progress with the squares cleaned from the vegetation and the holes which were caused by the looters. And actually, we knew that we can find interesting things because we are walking on the fields, and sometimes we found something. And so we had a high expectation. And also, it was a methodological question if it makes sense, actually, the effort given to this, because we couldn't even find the workers, as this area is quite remote. And it did pay off. Those are the poor students working and collecting the materials. The system was just to collect everything in the smaller squares, then to divide the material into the architecture ceramics, into the pottery in different groups, to count it, to weight it, and of course to compare it with other squares. And later on, we also use it for comparison with other sites we are investigating in the area. And as I said, it paid off because we found concentration and signs of a production. This actually is an iron slag which might have been excavated by the metal detectorists, but I don't think that they would be moving it around a lot. And we can see concentration of the slag here around these squares. And even in this one sub-square of 10 meters, we have about 7 kilograms of slag, altogether counting 19 kilos. And we took some slag on the analysis to Prague, and we can confirm that some of it is a smelting slag, some of it is a forging or a smithing slag. So there were different types of activities taking part of the sites. One then focused on smelting of the ore, another one of producing items. We also find pieces of a furnace lining. And another find is maybe even more worth it was the glass production center. Of course, we don't have the kiln, but we have a huge amount of small fragments, and many of them are either drops or threads, which suggest that the glass was melting on the site. We have raw glass, which was brought from Levantine. We did some analysis, and also we have some rings which were detached from the pipes, so the glass was blown. There was about 1,400 fragments of glass. The fragments concentrated in this square D13 on the north of the site. Not all of them, of course. This amount I said was from whole the site, but there was a big portion of it come from that area, and it also seems that the glass was collected there for secondary remelting. Another finds I would like to mention are these pieces of architecture which were located on the northern part of the settlement, and I will go back to them later on. But this is something also you normally don't find on the field survey. And Also pieces of quern stones, which will be later helpful for interpretation of the settlement. We have them only not from the site itself, but also from the excavation from the lower part of the whole investigated area. So what we can say after this and all the excavation and the things I haven't shown about the Jurtastrino site, well, actually dated to the 2nd and 3rd century, perhaps also the 4th century, but the peak and the biggest amount of finds is 2nd and 3rd century AD. And the site seems to be focused on crafts. So we have iron smelting and smithing, bronze glass production, and also the grinding stones attest to some aspect of agriculture. Oh, sorry, I'm going back. Also, since I was processing the pottery, and that's a topic on its own, so I'm not going to go much in a deep. I will elaborate on it a little bit later, but what I would like to say now, that from the thousands and thousands of pottery I've seen, majority of them is locally produced. There is a very little import, and not only transport amphora, but also like the fine and coarse ware is just almost neglectable in the amount of the pottery finds. So after excavation of Jurtastrino, we were thinking, okay, like, so what's happening around? This is one site, and what do we know about its surrounding? So I went back to the Tundzha Regional Archaeological Project data, since the project never published the pottery or the finds from the survey, but allowed everybody who was interested to study them. So they are deposited in the Kabylem Museum. And so I evaluated the material and also together studying their publication, focused on the sites which were dated to the Roman period and made a selection of them. So on the left, we can see all the sites that they were investigated. On the right is the selection of the sites which had the Roman period component. And then in 2017, 2018, we went to the field to see if we can find these sites or not, and in which state they are. And also, since the material which was in the Kabylem Museum was not that abundant, I wanted to choose some sites for investigation. And so the sites were possible, all of them was possible to find. Some had very little material, but the site 6021, that's the Trump number, and 7023 actually had were very well accessible, had still a lot of founds or material on the surface. Also, they were interesting because they were very different. One of them is one of the biggest, while the other ones is one of the smallest scatters which were investigated there. So we thought it would be interesting also to compare them. So the next year in 2019, we started with re-evaluation of these two sites. The site or the scatter 6021, this is it. We didn't do the intensive surface survey again, but we just put 3 total pickups on the site to gain some material for comparison. Total pickup, just say what we have done, 20 to 20 meter trenches. Every material was collected, then it was sorted, weighted, and documented basically the same way as previously the urban survey from Jurtastrino, producing sort of a similar kind of data, which could be compared. Also, we walked the field. This was a Roman period area, and here close to the river, there was an Iron Age component, so we were trying to ignore that, not to mix the data together. So this was another actually parameter for selection, decides that they are only mono period and that we don't mix information. Then this is how the site looked like. This is slightly up the hill, so looking towards the river, collecting the data. Second site, that was 7023. The smaller one, you can see it's considerably smaller. It's about 1 hectare only, and basically all the material is concentrated in 2 polygons, which have 50 meters and 200 in length. There was a bit more material on this northern part, but it looked like a Jurtastrino, heavily overgrown, so not systematically possibly to be investigated. We put again 2 total pickup squares and surveyed the area in possible direction for small finds, for stones, work stones, for whatever interesting archaeological material we could collect. This site was not only smaller but also different in character because there was a huge amount of roof tiles on the top. It didn't look that nice. This is after we were done with the site and throwing it back to the fields because, of course, we were not taking this anywhere. And some of the roof tiles were overfired. We had a chance to do geophysics on the site, and actually what it told us is that it's full of debris, something we wouldn't know. But it was able to identify the debris concentration actually in this 3 location. It looks small, but for comparison, the biggest one in the middle, this debris, has 30 to 12 meters, so it is not that small. Another one is on the northern part, so in this area which was not surveyed because it was overgrown and probably continued, although we just couldn't access it. So it seems that there is a roof tile fall covering some houses, and we could probably see that those houses could be several different ones located on this small top of the hill. The material was identical, not only identical with Karavelovo and Robovo, but also with Jurta Strojno. We had the same types of pottery, we have the same other finds, we had the same types of glass and also of the grinding stones. So even there are different sizes and different way of investigation, like say different scale, we can very much conclude that the size had a similar character, are dated to the same period, and the material culture is identical. And to enlarge a little bit our investigated area, I would like to add 2 sites. One is 2019-01, which refers to year 2019 and first site which was found, because since we were collecting materials on these 2 sites on the north, our colleague Tudor Valchev from the museum was leading a field survey in the area and invited us to help him with one transect in this, well, between the river and the road between the villages. And so I don't have systematically collected data since I was helping him on his own project, but I can say that this site, go back, 2019, is yet another Roman period rural settlement in the area with very similar characteristics as the other sites. The schedule was about 200 to 100 meters around this field, and we also had some fragments of quern stones on the field. That's how the fields look like. And the last site I would like to mention is Svatý Ilija. This site is investigated by the Elchovo Archaeological Museum, so from the local municipality, together with Daniel Agre. It started in 2014, so the same year as we started with Jurta Strojno, although with several breaks. And they have uncovered huge Roman villa. And this is the geomagnetic plan. There are several phases, also some previous Thracian settlement around in the area. However, to the 2nd, 3rd century, they also date this huge structure, which been so far published only in a small reports or short reports, which are yearly published after the excavation, but also presented orally on the so-called odčety, which are yearly presentation of the projects. And since I am following them, I know that the material they found, again, the pottery, the quern stones, the stones have exactly the same structure, the stone architecture as a Jurta Strojno. So also this site was contemporary with the other sites we've just seen in the area. So if we put this on the map, we can see on the right, those are the Roman period settlements in the area located along the 2 rivers, which are contemporary, not sure exactly in which period, but somewhere during 2nd and 3rd century, or maybe during all this period. And we can notice that there is a specific distance between them. I was playing with some models, gave them a buffer of 2.5 kilometers, which sort of works. So it seems that there is like a similar distance between them. Also around the southern river, although the distance here a little bit longer, and we can also put in the system Sati Elia. It's not perfect, but there is a system, and probably the sites were founded during the same period in some specific patterns to give them space around for agriculture or pastoralism. You might notice that I'm missing two sites. It's a site 7020 and 7023 on the model. That's because those are of smaller scale. And I really think that this one, the 7020, belongs to the other one, and it's maybe like a different farmsteads, homesteads, which belong together. Also, similar situation in this case, or it could be just bigger settlement with some smaller habitation in its vicinity. Well, so those were data which were published, and now I would like to show you something new. This is site of Kozarevo, which we have investigated in 2024. So this is the area where we were before. Now we are moving 25, 30 meters, 30 kilometers on the north. And Kozarevo, named by the village of Kozarevo, which is located in here. It's located in this area, but before going there, I wanted to show you also amount of burial mounds which is located in its vicinity. We don't know if the burial mounds are connected to the settlement or if they are Roman or not. But this is like a necropolis of several mounds, which is very visible in the satellite images, and you can also see it from the road. This is a ring road along Jambol. The site is located on the southwest from the village. It's cut in half by Kozarevsko Todere. It's an artificial channel, and probably it continued also under the village because the locals reported that they are finding on their gardens some archaeological material. Here we were lucky. The geophysics gave us better results. And also we had the data before we did the field survey, so it was a better situation. And what I would like to show you is this area and this area where we can see on the interpretation of the data either stone structure or maybe more interesting, these orange features, which are thermoremnant features. So they went through the high heat, and those features are often interpreted as kiln or kiln structures or somehow like production-related facilities. So this is the situation after our survey. We used or adopted the same method of the Tundzha Regional Archaeological Project just to be producing the same sort of data which can be compared with each other. So polygons of 50 meters with 5 workers, then the total pickups on 3 different places, each of 20 meters. And then again, working with the GPS, collecting data in the fields in case we found something interesting. The site has about 33 hectares in its core, but it also continues towards south. This is an old quarry, which is currently abandoned. We didn't systematically survey this area, but I think we would see a continuation of the site also in this area. Unfortunately, it was overgrown and it was inaccessible at the moment of the survey. And just a selection of the finds. This is a silver denarius of Marcus Aurelius, dated 272 and 173 AD. And it's actually, which was found just on the field, which was newly ploughed. So it was in one of the lumps which was just turned. And there are many more coins which are coming from the sites. At the museum, they have a collection about 250 coins from Kozarevo, and a majority of them is dated to the 3rd century and beginning of the 4th century AD. The 4th century AD is suggested also by some pottery finds. So majority of the finds is again 2nd, 3rd century AD, but we can see that there is also later aspect, definitely of the 4th century AD, where this decoration of the stem trims and this triangle ending of the rim were characteristic. And specific finds are loom weights. They are probably not that rare, but we haven't had loom weights. There is one only on Jurta Strojno, but that's it in the whole area. The loom weights probably rather relate to the earlier phase, the 2nd, 3rd century AD of the settlement, because then in the 4th century the system of the looms changes and they are out of fashion. So they probably are earlier than the pottery and the coins I'll be mentioning. Also, there is a aspect or a settlement which can be dated earlier, probably Iron Age, early Iron Age, which is on the northern part. There is some Roman pottery still, so it's a little bit overlapped, but it's quite detached from the rest. You can see that we have some dub and flint. Other finds which come from the settlements are storage vessels. There are many of them, and again, besides the Jurta Strojno, we didn't really have them. What is, however, interesting that many of them are modified by fire. Over fire, it seems that some of them could be even wastes. And besides of the dolia, we can see a similar phenomenon also on roof tiles. And it gave us an idea because, of course, you are thinking, combining what you know from the geophysics, that this could be a production site of storage vessels and probably also of the roof tiles. There are other evidences which points that this could be a production site. Regarding the pottery, there is a huge amount of overfired clay. We had a hard time actually in the beginning to get used to it, and we were thinking it's a slag, but it's not a slag. We did several analyses, broke it on several places. It's a pottery. Unfortunately, it's a pottery. There is still some slag, but it's much lower amount. It's iron slag. And also, in some point, we were running into pieces of magnetite, so iron ore. And on the right, I put some pieces which are very likely parts of a kiln. This one on the top, I'm quite sure that this is a part of again a lining of a iron smelting kiln, while the one on the top, on the bottom, we can see that there's some straw. Could be pottery, could be also iron kiln. And so if we put this together with the features, it seems that this is another site where some craft could have taken place. Well, and in this point, I will end the archaeological part, and I will move to what I'm doing now at the Future Laboratory and focus a little bit on the pottery. I'm carrying a project which, if I simplify it, focuses on local pottery production and circulation in the area of Jambol district. I'm based at the Fitch, but I also collaborate with Silvia Amicone from the University of Tübingen, where we are carrying some of the analysis. And first, I will mention a little bit about the pottery. Then I would also like to move to the geology of the area, because that's for the pottery study also very important. This I mentioned a little bit already. So this is material from Jurta Strojno, which was about 30,000 sherds or 3,800 diagnostic fragments I was working with. And for all of these, only about 5% was imported. And this can be still further divided into transport amphorae, which there is a good reason to import them because they are wrapping material. And only 2% of imported pottery was a household pottery, either fineware or coarseware. And if you put it on the map, we can see that majority of the pottery which was imported came from the eastern Aegean through the Tundzha River, very likely. It's a this map shows a mixture of amphora, but also of fine and coarse ware. And there are just the pieces from other parts of the Roman world, of the known world. And also the pottery, which is imported, dates mostly at the end of the 1st century and first half of the 2nd century AD. So my thesis is that after the local pottery production in the beginning of the 2nd century AD started, there was no need to import any fine ware or coarse ware from the Aegean or Mediterranean area. And then all the pottery had to be locally produced. And indeed, we have some hints that tableware, cooking, and food preparation were both of course wheel-made and handmade, was produced locally. Then we have storage vessels and possibly also some architecture ceramics. What is the problem, however, of the pottery studies is that the typology is quite unified. And if I overshoot a little bit, this pot, which I like and I put it everywhere because it is everywhere, could be produced from the Danube Delta all the way basically to the Aegean coast. And it always looks the same. It has a red fabric and red slip. So based on the macroscopic description or on typology, it is impossible to find its possible production place. So this is where the project starts. On the material from Jurta Strno, I have identified several different wares of fine ware, of coarse ware, and also handmade pottery, which was possible to distinguish macroscopically. So we took samples of these, about 114 from Jurta Strno, which were analyzed by ceramic petrography, but also by chemical composition analysis, BD XRF, and some of them also by deep mineralogical composition. And to have some comparative material, I took samples from Karavelovo and Kozarevo of similar looking wares and shapes to see if they are actually produced from the same fabric. And of course, we tried to find the production place, and that's where the local geology starts. So here we have on the right the geological map, on the left you can compare with the sort of a relief map. And Jambol district, this is an extended area of it, is located in a magmatic zones of magmatic rocks. And it's a so-called Eastern Strednogorje magmatic zone, which can be divided on 4 different zones. And actually 2 of them meet in our area. This is more or less the area of the meeting point. And here on the north, we can find volcanic rocks, if I simplify it, and on the south, we can find plutonic rocks. In the interface area, and as we see, this is the area where Jurta Strno is located, the sites of Karavelovo and Robovo. We have metamorphic rocks, both metamorphic foliate rocks or low-grade metamorphic rocks. There are limestone, there are marbles. Those are the blue, pink areas on the map. More information I wanted to provide you also are the mountains in the area, the Bakaji's peaks, which are one of the dominant mountains of the volcanic area, and they are actually created by paleovolcanoes. And we can see that the site of Kozarevo is directly placed in the lava flow from the volcanoes. The other dominant peak in the area are so-called monastery heights, which are located in this area, and they are again the most massive body in the area of the plutonic rocks, or representative of plutonic rocks created by Gabbro. So those are the massives creating the landscape of the area. And also for us, this information of this division is important because in theory, I should be able to divide the material coming from Kozarevo from the area coming from Jurta Strno and the surroundings based on different mineralogical or rock composition. Also, to gather a little bit more data, we did extensive geological survey collecting stones and clays. These was several seasons of collecting, so you can see different colors, different season. From this, I made, we can also see how the ambitions were growing. But then I made a selection of 44 samples. Those are the ones down on the map, which were further processed. So they were, of course, collected, then they were mixed with the water to get rid of the lumps. Then 4 briquettes were created from each of the sample. They were fired on different temperatures, so you can see how the clay behaves on different temperature, how does the color changes, if it survives or doesn't survive. And then from each of this clay sample, a thin section was made, so it was glued to the glass, cut to 30 microns, compared or observed under the polarizing microscope, where we can see its petrographical composition. We can see which rocks and minerals are represented. And of course, this huge database now, which is at the Fitch laboratory, can be compared with the pottery, which together with Jurtastojno, Karavelovo, Kozero is about 200 pottery sherds. And I would like to share with you some results. It's very preliminary because I'm still in the middle of the project. Anyway, the handmade pottery is very well processed already, so here I'm quite confident. And you might be surprised about the handmade pottery of the Roman period, but indeed here is the long continuation of the tradition of the handmade pottery, which started to be produced by the Thracians at the beginning of the early Iron Age, is produced until the 4th century AD. And this is more or less like how it looks, although these are 3rd, 4th century BC pots just for illustration. But anyway, from the area, from the Roman settlements, we have identified 3 different fabrics which are circulating on the sides. And on each of the sides, so now I'm talking about the Karavelovo, Jurta, and Kozarevo, 2 main fabrics can be seen, are represented. And from these fabrics, always one is local, so from the local sources, and one is imported. So those are the 3 fabrics. This is a comparison with the local geology. So you can see this is always on the left. We have a thin section of the sherds. On the right, we have a thin section of the local geology. And thanks to that, we could find the sources. And so we have a production in Kozarevo for local production, for local use, Karavelovo, Jurta, Stojno, but then also at the area of Monastery Heights, or the Druparon, which is a late antiquity hill fort, which has nothing to do with it, but it's like a point of orientation. But here in this area, one fabric of the handmade pottery was produced and then exported to the sites around. And also, it seems to be some small over exchange between these 2 areas, as we have one pot from Kozarevo and Jurtastojno and vice versa. Then if you look on the side of Kozarevo, we've seen that there were hints of local pottery production. We know now that there was one type of the handmade pottery production on the spot. Also, the loom weights I've shown were also produced locally. They have exactly the same fabric as the handmade pottery. And also the storage vessels, which were deformed by the fire. Some of these storage vessels, however, were also found in Jurtastojno, because that was another site which had storage vessels. So the pottery traveled. And then there was a question regarding the roof tiles, because there were roof tiles modified by the fire also in Kozarevo, but they have very different fabrics and they were not produced there. And then we have the Jurtastojno area. Here it is complicated because the area which has a similar geology is big. So we assume there was a local pottery production, but it's not very clear where it could have been, because it could be in a wider area. Although in this area, one of the handmade pottery was produced. Then wheel-made, coarseware, and fineware of several different wares could be also linked to this specific area. And then, this pottery is represented both in Jurtastrojno, Karavelovo, and also Kozarevo. So the fineware and coarseware made on a wheel from all these 3 sites we have investigated has the same origin, and the origin seems to be in the area of Jurtastrojno. And also we can link the roof tiles which were found on Kozarevo, as they have very similar composition, and they were probably produced in the same area as this fine and wheel and coarse ware. And you might ask, do we have a pottery production center here? And we actually do. I would like to go back to the site of Svatý Ilja from the odčety, so from the reports which was not published, but they are presented yearly. They mentioned in 2021 that they found 1 double-chambered kiln, and in the pottery they showed it was not pottery from the kiln. Some looked like wasters, and actually last Friday there was a odčety from the last year excavation where they mentioned that they found probably 2 more kilns, and that one of them seems to be focused on architecture ceramics production, so on the roof tiles. So this story starts to make sense, and maybe it's a Svatý Ilja who is the production site in the area of Jurtastrojno. And while talking about the geology, it's also tempting to have a look on the local resources, because we do have some crafts taking place on the settlement. So let's focus first on the metals. So we have a Bakačice peak, so the or the Paleo volcano, where is a rich deposit of polymetallic ores with attested copper, zinc, lead, and gold. Another area is so-called Svetlisky Heights. Here we have attested copper and iron. And next area is the Monastery Heights, with the site of Rodoparon, where is a attested iron extraction. Besides of metals, there is also potential of extracting local stones, and I've been coming back to the quern stones because they are interesting. And actually, we've been consulting every year with geologists the stones we found, and we can identify their origin, or not their origin, but their composition at least. And so we have a Karavelovo, Robovo, Jurtastrojno, the 3 sites which are next to each other, where the composition or the material the quernstones are made has a higher variability. We have sandstones, we have some metamorphic rocks, we have some plutonic rock, in this case granite, but of course also volcanic rocks, because they are the most commonly used for this kind of items. And if you look on the area, sorry, the other way, all these stones are locally accessible. So we have a source of sandstones, we have a source of plutonic of granite. This is the red stone, red color is granite, and also the nearby source of the volcanic stones. On the other hand, if you look on the Kozarevo, there is only volcanic stone, because Kozarevo is just in the middle of the volcanic area. So we haven't done any proper analysis of the stones, but it seems that there are tendencies of using local sources for quern stones production. And there is one last stone-related area called Kamenec, so stone. It's a quarry. Today's it's focused on a limestone extraction, but about 1 kilometer south from the modern quarry, we can find actually signs of ancient quarrying activities. Here, either some tool marks or some extraction lines. And we have investigated this during our excavation in Jurtastrojno, took 4 samples from the quarries for analysis. Those are the 4 samples, so this is quite a high variability from one quarry. And it's not a limestone, it's a marble. And we could actually compare it with some of our finds, which I also wanted to show you previously from Jurtastrojno. And these 2 actually could come from the quarry. This is just a stone from the architecture, so just the basic construction material. This is the base, probably of a column, while the column itself might come from the site or not. There is some similarity, but who knows? And then the other two stones, which were sampled, I think we can already see that they look different, were not sourced in this quarry. Of course, more analysis needs to be done. Also, the source of the stone continues towards Utastrino. Now, Kamenec is about 8 kilometers far, so maybe they sourced the stone for the construction of Utastrino closer, and it can still be the same source, but as we saw previously, the diversity of the stone in one quarry can be high. Maybe the diversity continues, and more of these stones found on our site could be from a local source. So what does this tell us in a conclusion? I decided to put the conclusion in the maps as I've done so many maps for this presentation, because I think we can see it here and we can see it very well. So first conclusion would be focused on the settlement patterns. So we have a small area, but even on the small area, we can see that it's densely populated by the Roman rural settlements, which have exactly the same materials, and they can be dated to the 2nd and 3rd century AD. We can see that there is some distance between them. So likely they were keeping some buffer zone for their stock breeding and agriculture activities. And we can see also that some of the rural settlements might specialize in some kind of a production. And now I can transfer to the other map. Here I have again highlighted the places of possible iron extraction, and to compare them with the sites of Utastrino, where we have attested iron smelting and smithing, and Kozarevo, where we don't have it really attested, but we have the geophysics data, we have the pieces of the kiln, we have the iron ore, so we may presume that there was some kind of activity taking place. Then we have the pottery production. So Svatý Ilija, there is a kiln site. It was not excavated, but all the analysis we done regarding the petrography suggests that there was a production center in the area. So maybe, I hope, likely, it was there. Or if it was not there, it was some other place, one of these other settlements in the area, which could focus on this kind of activities. And in Kozarevo, again, we have indirect evidence of pottery production, but I would believe the petrography because this area has a very specific petrographic mark. And also, thanks to the pottery, we can see that there was some kind of exchange and maybe a specialization. So what does it look like for now? Kozarevo was producing bigger storage vessel, while then we have a fine ware and coarse ware and maybe architecture produced in the area of Utastrino, and there was some exchange in the region regarding these specific items. Then we have the glass production site at Utastrino and the possible extraction area and at the Kamenec, which indirectly also might suggest that the local stone, which veins goes all the way to Utastrino, was suitable for extraction and for using. I would also like to add the information regarding the pottery studies, and that the information specifically that majority of the pottery was locally produced, because that was the first hint which brought me to sort of independence of this area during the Roman period, because it seems that they were able to produce whatever pottery they needed for their use. And building this story and putting it in context, it actually seems that the area was quite independent in general. So whatever material we can see, stones, metals, glass, that it was able to produce what they needed without much of an import from other parts of the Roman Empire. And I think I would end with this. I forgot the quern stones. Anyway, quern stone also possibly locally produced. But before I end, I wanted to invite you, if there are some pottery enthusiasts, to the conference which will take place in October at the BSA. We are just opening the call for the abstracts, so please feel free to contact me. I will send you more information. Well, feel free to contact me anyway. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Petra. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was a lot of information. It was a lot of information. Yeah.
Very interesting and very important information.
Exactly. Yeah. Meliana has say something about how we will organize the discussion, please, because we do have a problem with the webinar. So Meliana.
Yes, like I said in the chat, you can post your questions in the chat or in the Q&A chat. Because there are a few issues with opening the mics with the Teams webinar, but we will try to do it. So if you have a question, you can raise your hand. We'll try to open your mic, but if you cannot speak, you can post your question on the chat. Okay. So that's it. If you have a question, first of all, raise your hand and then we'll figure it out the rest.
Okay, great. So
and maybe even if you don't have a question, you might have a comment, you have a remark, anything that you would like to comment on Petra's excellent presentation.
Yeah. So basically, until you think all of that, we will start with some questions. Well, I don't know. I mean, so you know our lecture series is called Mapping the Past. Okay. And you actually offered us through mapping the past of this small area in the interior of Bulgaria, which I found it amazing. So I have kept some notes, but I will start from one that I think is the most important for me, at least. My question is that all this information that you sent us and all this accumulated, evidence and the ceramics and the material from the survey, the rest. How far you think does the landscape that you described or the landscape that you described based on the evidence you have reflect a typical rural setting for the area? And how much these patterns that you see, the handmade pottery, the small buffer zones, all this local independency, let's say, how much these patterns are the product of specific local conditions rather than broader regional terms? I don't know if I made sense, but
yeah, I do. I understand. I don't know. Okay, would I know that there are more studies? Of course, this is not the only study. There is one north from our area on the border with Nova Stara region, and they do produce a similar kind of data. It was not extensively published, but I've talked to the investigators, and they also found many rural settlements on the side. They excavated one or two of them, and they found many iron objects related to agriculture. So I think that the countryside was densely populated, but maybe this is a characteristic for the upper Thracian plain, because this was maybe the main area for the agriculture for the whole province.
Yeah, but I mean, it was like densely populated, but next to major roads or major passages, but still the economy was characteristically local, if I get it right.
Yes.
How do you explain that? Or do you have any idea of why this was happening? I mean, you don't have so many imports, if I get it right.
No, we don't, but I think it is necessary to go over other materials.
Yeah.
I'm very curious about the metals and the metals analysis, the final product. And in my opinion, this would be a next step. So now to sample the glass from the area and to compare it with the production center, to sample the metals from the area and to compare them with the results of our analysis, to see actually if we can find the final products of these production centers.
Yeah.
Because this is a hypothesis, no? It looks that there are perfect conditions for this area to be independent.
Okay.
but is it true? I don't know. No, like I can confirm this probably on the pottery because that's what I really study, but the rest is more in the level of assumption.
Yeah. Right. No. It's actually very interesting because of how all this evidence comes to this conclusion. I can go on, but if you, I mean, if you have any other question, please.
No, you let some other people, maybe they have other questions. And while you're preparing your questions, I have also a question, not as broad as Vasilis, but I was really interested in the glass material remains you found there. And my first question was that the only place where you found glass, or you had other places? And also, what do you think that they manufacture there? Because the workshop had to be somewhere nearby.
Yeah, well, I think the workshop was at the Turtastrino because everything suggests that. And it's quite rare because in the all southern Bulgaria, there are no other workshops. Actually, I know glass workshop from Varna, from Sofia, but they are, and then from the North Bulgaria.
Exactly, that was my question, because I'm not really aware of many glass production places in Bulgaria. Yeah.
Yeah, but well, we have about 200 samples from the region of glass, which are waiting to be analyzed because at this moment we don't have financial resources. And I think this is an important next step just to see if the final products of that production centers were used in the region and if in the wider area.
But you don't have information about that yet?
No.
Oh, unfortunately, because that would be really important if you have other material from the area to know that it was distributed. And it was interesting that in general you don't have many imports, but apparently the glass paste was imported.
Oh, it had to be imported. I think that
yeah, I know, but
able to do glass otherwise. Yeah, I mean, there is some import. No, there is also fine. Surprisingly, we have a Chandadli, the Eastern Sujata Sea on each of the side, but like 1-2 pieces. It's a very small amount, but so there is something. There is something coming. There is some connection, but it could be delivered together with some other materials, transport amphora. It's not the major item, I think, of the import, but yeah, pieces make it there. But in very low amount.
I think there is some question in the chat.
Yeah, we do have a question in the chat and question in Q&A. We will start with the Q&A because it was the first one from MJ, which, well, just MJ. So it says that it appears that for the survey of the sites and consequently for the GIS project, the recording of finds was carried out per field. Would it perhaps be better to define a grid with squares of fixed dimensions? Doesn't the different size and shape of the fields affect the color visualization of classification based on the number of finds? Sorry.
Yeah, well, actually we tried both in some point, but it's just much easier to go on the field to see how the field is shaped and and make the polygon on the spot. Because if you create a square at home from the computer and then you insert it on the field, you find out on the spot that some places are not accessible, or it just doesn't fit the region. So this is the methodology set up by Tundzha Regional Archaeological Project, which we followed in some point. As when Vasilis was introducing me, he said that I was working in Uzbekistan. We tried different things, but this works the best. Yes, it's not the best for the visualization. Some of the polygons are longer, some are wider. It's harder for comparison, but it's just easiest way for the data collection in the field, on the spot.
Okay, we do have a question from DG, which I think is Dimitris. I'm pretty sure that it's Dimitris, who says, "Hi Petra, amazing talk, especially regarding your approach to mapping the pottery production in the region." Definitely Dimitris, I'm telling you. Do you have any thoughts of how far these local products travel? I also have this question. Did the products supply mostly the rural sites, or did they also reach Kabili and the other urban sites? Many thanks and congrats.
Yeah, thank you. Well, this is the question of my project I'm carrying out now at the Fitch. This is exactly what I would like to know. And I'm not going to learn that because I don't have enough comparative sites. But at least at this point, I know that there seems to be a specialization and then there seems to be an exchange between individual settlements. So the next obvious step would be to add more sites spaced in a bigger distance and to see in which point the composition of the pottery changes and maybe they start to be supplied from different production centers in different area. This would be amazing to do, but for that I need a bigger section through the countryside.
This is a good question actually for your forthcoming conference and things like that. Okay, so I'm going to the next question, which is by Richard Kingley, and we're very happy to have him with us, which now comes with a follow-up question. He says, the people at your settlements will need to pay tax to the Roman state. Okay, it's interesting that they do not seem to be getting integrated in broader imperial forms of material culture, which I totally agree. Do you find many Roman coins in the landscape? And then he says also, sorry, I also meant to say that it's great to see this regional fieldwork. Very interesting.
Thank you. Regarding the coins, it's a tricky situation because many of the sites in the area are looted. And from the Jurtaströno, as you've seen, it was looted heavily. We have like 12 bronze coins and that's it. So I don't know if this is the state of art or that there have never been more coins, or this is because of the looting. We are not allowed to use metal detectors ourselves as archaeologists. That was something I was suggesting and I would be interested to do. Of course, not to go to the archaeological depth, but on the field, on the plowed fields only, because then we have this one coin from Kozarevo. Otherwise, we are not really finding coins. Also, because we cannot use the metal detectors on the field works.
Yeah, it would be interesting actually if Richard could tell us, but now we have a problem with the mic. If there is a similar situation in Scotland, he has studied in these Roman northern parts of Britain, if we have this the same unwillingness, let's say, to take part in broader imperial networks. We do have another comment and question from Vasiliki Anevlavi, and of course, knowing someone, the research by Vasiliki is about quarries. And she says, thank you for the great presentation. Did you manage to map the marble quarry and its size? Obviously submitted for your research.
Hi, Vasiliki. No, well, the site, the quarry is quite inaccessible, and we wouldn't found it if it wouldn't be of Joro Ilya from the Archaeological Museum who knew where the site is, and he took us there. And despite he knew it was hard to find the points of the extraction because it's heavily overgrown, you cannot see anything. We are really crossing the scrubby areas. So we didn't manage to map the whole extent of the quarry. And we haven't found a single shirt to date it, for example.
Okay, so if we do have any other questions, Meliana?
We have a question from Varvara. I'm going to give him my headphones so that she can ask the question because she has an issue with her mic as well. I'm really sorry.
Varvara, as I told you before, is our new aspiring pottery specialist. So,
hello from here.
Hello.
It was a really interesting presentation. I would like to ask regarding the pottery. That it was local produced and it served the needs of the sites that you already mentioned. This followed some characteristics from other main Roman pottery centers of production, or did they have their own distinct character? That's my question, and I'm not sure if it is clear enough.
Say it again, please. I'm not sure if I understand.
I mean, did they follow, I mean, the fineware and the cooking vessels, did they follow the characteristics, the typology of other main Roman centers of production from the Asia Minor or from other areas, or did they have their own character? I mean, they followed their own traditions. That's my question.
Yeah, okay, I understand.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, well, actually, there is own tradition, which is of course inspired. You can see that some forms are inspired by Eastern sigillata. But there is actually a phenomenon. It was called for many years Maisian sigillata because there are main production centers on the northern Bulgaria in Pavlíky, Hotnica, Butovo. And it is a huge hub of pottery production, which gave the name of this Maisian sigillata production. But actually by now we see that the same shapes were produced all around Maisia Inferior and Thrace. So it's not something which could be attributed to specific production center, but it's more like a regional thing. And I believe it will be possible one day to identify the individual production centers, that they also could have like a specific shape. But what is the problem with the pottery studies in Bulgaria, at least? That the shape is the main argument for typology, and no one really pays attention to the fabrics. And this is something I would like to show through this study, that first we need to identify different fabrics, and then we do the typology on the pottery, which is presumably produced at least in some area, if not on one production center, because now everything is thrown together under one type. Even the things, even the pots are produced in different production centers.
If Richard can hear us, I made you presenter. So if you try to open your mic, maybe work. Yeah. Hi, Richard. You have to unmute, or Meliana will unmute you. Sorry, we cannot hear you, Richard.
No, now I think you can unmute yourself now. I think
Richard, you can actually unmute yourself. Yeah.
Wait just a minute.
Yeah.
It did go on and then went off again. We'll see if it stays on.
No, now we can hear you perfectly.
I found that very interesting. I mean, I've been looking for a while at areas of the Roman Empire which don't seem to what we used to call Romanize. So areas where you don't get a lot of sort of the standard stuff. I mean, you might not get villas, for instance, or you don't get very many. You don't get towns particularly, or even in the West, we get a lot of nucleated settlements which don't have sort of high status architecture. You don't necessarily get those. I mean, Scotland is one example, but Scotland's beyond the imperial frontier. I think northern England, which is within the imperial area, is probably in some ways quite similar, but we get very little pottery. I mean, handmade or wheel-made. We get very little imported pottery, apart from on military sites. So you have forts with imported material, lots of imported material and coins, and you have settlements where you've got very little. But I also think, I mean, there are other areas I know in the West, in northwestern Iberia, there are few Roman cities, colonies usually. The rural settlements don't necessarily produce that much Roman period material. I mean, they're Roman period in date. And some of the hill fort sites actually continue into the Roman period. So the tradition of building hilltop fortifications continue. And I think, it may be as much a reflection, what you found there, the fact, my impression is people don't do a lot of landscape survey work outside Italy. We used to in Britain, they used to do some in France. Italy, there's masses of work, But I think I'm not really aware. I mean, I don't know your area at all well, but I'm not really aware of much landscape survey work. I'm sure you all are aware of things I'm not aware of, I have to say.
Yeah, actually, you are right that the settlements, and that's also what Dimitris asked before, the situation with the Kabyle, which is the major Roman period settlement in the area, it's completely different there. It haven't been systematically studied or published, but just because we used to sleep on the base where all the material from the Kabyle is stored. So I know there is a lot of import. There is a lot of amphora, for example. I'm not sure about the fineware and coarseware, but the proportion of the amphora which are on the camp itself, and it's again military side, it's completely different than what is happening in the countryside. So it would be, of course, interesting to compare bigger cities with the rural areas, and we might see that the proportion of the material changes. Also, one more thing for the Bulgaria, the many studies focuses on Danube, on the northern part of Bulgaria, so Mesia Inferior, and the situation there is completely different because it's integrated through the Danube with the Roman Empire, and that is much more important.
Nice, indeed. We have another question, a little bit provocative, by Christian Dalewski, who says, thank you very much for the presentation. To what level the illegally dug pits altered the concentration of finds probably on the surface? How reliable the data from intensive field surveys when we face these situations? Or maybe they facilitate interpretation by bringing more material to the surface?
Yeah,
and I think this will be the last question, if you all agree.
Okay. Yeah, well, this was a special situation, but I think that's something we will have to face, that more and more sites are looted. And we tried to make it our advantage instead of disadvantage. And yeah, like the glass workshop, I don't think we would find it just walking on the field if the looters wouldn't bring the glass on the surface. Maybe the same situation is with the metals, although those are like big pieces and could be more obvious. But they did help us digging the things from the strata into which we wouldn't get. They basically did small like micro sondages into the site. So it's not completely reliable that the location of the finds we found, but I think is I mean, we can say that there was a glass production center in the area because no one would move it that far.
Okay, so I mean, if we don't have any other questions, and once more, Petra, thank you very much. It was really fascinating, the whole amalgamation of evidence and all the conclusions, and I'm pretty sure that you will come up with amazing results, and possibly the conference you're organizing will bring more this kind of feedback. And you see that, you know, even Richard, I mean, he's the expert in UK Roman archaeology. He's brought you Kumbaranda and questions, so possibly more things will come up. So once more, thank you on behalf of everyone and accepting our invitation. And for the audience, I want to remind you that the next lecture will be on the 23rd of April, if I'm not mistaken, by Julia Zvetkova, that will speak about more GIS approach of movement across Thrace. And we will all be happy to have you with us. Once more, Petra, thank you. And of course, we'll be in touch. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Petra. Thank you very much for a very interesting presentation. I think we all learned a lot. And we wish you the best for the continuation of your research.
You can see actually from the uploading and from the messages, Chiara Manieri, she would also like to thank Dr. Tušlová for her huge and very interesting work, which allowed us to learn more about Roman Thrace. So it was a success, I think. So thank you. Meliana, we have to close.
Thank you very much. No, I'm just going to end the event and we're going to be okay with that. Okay. Once again, thank you very much.
Petra, we look forward for your results.
Thank you. Thank you. And have a nice evening, everybody.
Okay. We'll be in touch, Petra. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.